All right, I just got the new copy of Santa's Workshop, second edition, in the mail. So I'm going to go over both editions, compare them, and talk about the rules. We have all of our Christmas stuff set up, being early December. We have a bunch of Christmas games we set aside and only play in December, and this has been one of our favorites for 5 or so years. And so I'm really, I just received, I haven't played yet, the second edition. I watched a video about it. It's very similar, but pretty different. First thing you'll notice right away is that the first edition has a much bigger board. Some people might complain that takes up too much space and they like the more compact one here. Although the player boards are so much bigger, it adds up to almost the same. I kind of like the way the old one just is so huge, it just overwhelms you with Christmas presents. Presents, E-N-C-E. And you can see some component differences. We'll go over those in detail, but what I'm going to do is I'm first going to go over how to play the first edition, because that's what came out first, and then it will make it a lot easier to just talk about the changes for the second edition. So the main point of the game is to collect these cards that represent building toys. So with this toy, if you collect 2 cloth and 2 metal pieces of materials at the top and 2 tools, the bottom right green, you make a tennis racket and you score 16 points. The different toys require different amounts of different types of material, different numbers of tools, and are worth different points. Many of the toys allow you to replace some of the pieces with plastic, and that's the white. So you'll see here the 2 purple cloth have to be cloth, but the 2 metal, the gray is I think metal, can be replaced with plastic, but then you get less points. If you look at the point scoring over there on the right, if you do all the main materials, you get 16 points. But if you replace one with plastic, you only get 15. You replace both with plastic, both metals, you only get 12. So during the course of the game, you'll start with a few toys, I think 3. You can get more here during the game. And as you complete them, you score those points right away. There's a few other ways to get points right away and some ways to get points at the end. So to build your toys, the main thing you do, this is a worker placement game. So you have your player mats. This is set up for like a 2-player game. Player 1 starts with 2 coal. Player 2 starts with 3 coal. That's what's right there. I'll explain the player mats more later. You see we each have 4 elves. With, I think, 2 or 3 players, we have 4 elves. 4 or 5 players, everyone has 3 elves. Well, it's a worker placement game. So you could take one of your elves, and you could put it over here to get the materials you need. If you go here, for example, you can get, you pay 1 coal to get 2 metal. If you go over here, you pay 3 coal to get 3 metal. So you can do either. And so you can, same 2 options for cloth, same 2 options for wood. You could send 1 guy here, it doesn't cost you any coal, and you can get 7 plastic right away. So plastic's a lot easier to get, a lot cheaper. There's a strategy to try to finish more cards with a lot of plastic, but sometimes it's also just a desperate way to finish a card you can't otherwise finish. So it's a worker placement game. Let's say the first player goes here, so he turns in one of his coal, he collects 2 metal, and he'll have a bunch of toys set up over here. A few cards that he got at the beginning of the game. Again, I think it's 3. So let's say he does go over there. He'll turn in one of his coal, just to wherever the coal stash is. Let's put it over here for now. And go to the material stash, grab 2 metal, and he'll put them on this toy card to start building that toy. And one restriction is that you have to get all the materials for a given card before you can start getting any of the tools. So now he can get a tool and put it there, but he can't go to the 2 tool space because neither of these cards can accept a tool yet because they don't have all their materials. So then the second player, he could go get materials. I'll show you some other things he could do. Well, he can't go here. You could go here and get a tool, or here and get 2 tools, but only if you have places for them on your cards. You can only get tools or materials that you can use right away, otherwise you have to discard them. But this player might go over here to the schoolroom, there's a couple seats right here where he goes and gets trained, and he picks one of these bonus tiles. Let's say he picks this one. He is now trained as a cloth expert. So he puts it here, and on future turns, when the elf that's here goes to the cloth area, instead of 3 for 3, he gets 3 for 5. Instead of 1 for 2, he gets 1 for 4. You get 2 extra cloth. So you can train your elves to be more efficient when they go for materials. It doesn't work for plastic. When a given elf can only be trained in one material. Or more efficient when he goes here for tools. They can be trained to get 1 extra tool or 2 extra material. Each elf can be doubly trained. There's 2 spots. So if you can train him in 2 different types or doubly train him in one. I think you could doubly train him in one. I know you can in the second edition. I think you can in the first. Notice, by the way, that these 2 spots right here are covered up. You only use this in a 5-player game. You only use this in a 3 or more player game. There's some spots like that where you get the training tokens. There's some spots like that where you get the tools. And there's some spots covered up over here at the reindeer area. I'll explain that a little later. So I've already explained most of the game. The cards are the main ways you get points. To fill out, so you could go here to get cards. There's 2 spots. You go here and you can pick 3 cards. You go here and you can swipe the whole deck, or you actually have to swipe the whole deck and then grab 2 cards. So let's say you put your guy there. Let's say it's the blue guy's turn. I'm gonna get some more cards. I'm gonna go there. I like this one. So you can take this one, add it to his list, his set, and he immediately replaces this. So he could grab this one too if he wants, and he just keeps going and grabs 3. So you get cards because you'll finish the 3 you start with after a few rounds. So you'll need to get more cards. Then you get the materials and tools you need to finish the cards. And you could train your elves to be more efficient at getting materials or tools. And let's see, wow, that's just about, this game actually is pretty simple. Over here is the reindeer area where you can go. There's 2 spots available, so every round 2 workers can go there. They can be the same player if the other players don't go there. And so you put your worker here. You don't put your worker in one of the stalls. I always want to do that, but you put your worker here as a reminder that only 2 workers can go to the reindeer stalls in a given round of the 9 rounds. And then you just decide which one are you visiting. And I forgot to say, I think they all, these Christmas cookies, the point themes are Christmas cookies. If you look at the point scoring thing around the edge, they look like different types of Christmas cookies. You start with 1 on each space, and I don't think I grabbed enough, but let me just, maybe I did. Let's see, there's more in the box. Yep, okay, so it starts like this, and if you choose to go here, you want to visit Dasher. Dasher gives you 1 cloth token that you would then have to put somewhere. Oh, I didn't get tools for the pink guy. I mean, you would get tools at the beginning. Toy cards at the beginning of the game. I just didn't bother you. And let's see, you would put that there. And then you also take 1 cookie, which gets you 1 immediate point. So the pink guy scores 1 point. And then you just throw the cookie away. Put it back in the box. So at the end of every round, 0 to 2 of these will have been visited, and you know which ones were visited because there's no cookies there. And at the end of each round, as you start the next round, you put 1 more cookie on each. So you might not think these bonuses are great. You get 1 material, or here you get 2 coal, here you get 1 tool, 1 card, and whether it's here or from these 2 spaces, whenever you pick cards, you can always take the top one off the top of the deck if you'd rather than one of the visible ones. But these reindeer stalls will build up cookies. So if no one visits Cupid for the first 5 rounds, in round 6, you go to Cupid, you get a toy card and 6 points. And you would take those cookies, score yourself the points immediately, and that's that. 2 other reindeers. This guy is Comet. If you take the green tree, you become first player, which it makes a difference to not be first player for a while. So that's usually taken a few times each game. If you take this little guy, I forget his name, he's like Mr. Helper Dude. You take him, and he's an extra worker that you use at the end of the round. You might say, well, why would you use a worker and then just to get a worker? Well, for one, you'll get at least one cookie, maybe more if he hasn't been taken for a while. And two, you play him last so you can see what's been done, and he can only go over to these 7 material places, and he is automatically half trained in all 3 materials, cloth, wood, and metal. He gets 1 extra. So if you put him here, for 1 coal, you get 3 wood. You put him here, for 3 coal, you get 4 wood. So he's singly trained in each material, whereas if you get these training tokens and attach them to an elf, that elf becomes doubly trained in 1 material. So you might go, so that's the reindeer stalls. Oh yes, and if you go over here, put a guy over there, you get coal, which is the coal that you need in order to buy materials. And in the beginning of the game, if you send a worker over there, any number of workers can go there. The spaces aren't limited like they are everywhere else. You get 4 coal. Now speaking of that, let's look closer at these boards. Okay, you put your coal in these spots. Let's see, right there. And you see how there's 6. Well, there's actually more that you can see. There's these pictures of wood there. These areas give you an opportunity to get a couple pieces of material beyond what you can immediately use on your cards and use them for something else. So let's say you go and you get a bunch of cloth, and you can't or don't want to put them on an available toy card that you're building. Well, you could just put them here, and as soon as you do 2 of them, you get 4 points. We usually score that right away. You could wait and score it at the end of the game, but I always worry we won't remember. You can put some extra metal here. The first one means nothing, but as soon as you do the second one, every time you go get coal, for 1 worker instead of 4, you'll get 6 coal. See how it says +2. Here, the first one does nothing. The second one gets you 4 points. The wood is different in that the first does something. As soon as you put 1 wood there, you open up these 3 spots. Now you have room for 9 coal. As soon as you put a second wood there, you open up these 3 spots. Now you have room for 12 coal. That's very useful because if you go over and get 4 or 6 coal, when you don't have enough spots for it all, you have to toss the extra. So let's see if we talked about all the spots. So you get toy cards, you need materials and tools to build the toys. You can train your elves to be better at materials or tools. You need to get coal in order to buy the materials. I guess the coal represents firing up the machines that make the materials. There's these reindeer stalls you can go visit just for various extra resources or points or effects, and some points from the cookies. That's all the worker placement areas on the board. So let's explain the main scoring. Well, the main scoring is every time you finish a toy card, you take those points right away and you advance on the space track. Another way you get points during the game is collecting these cookies, getting a couple extra cloth materials, and that might be it. There might be something I'm forgetting. I think that's about all the ways you get points at the beginning, during the game, except for every 3 rounds, there's a special toy scoring. So this is Santa. He keeps track of what round you're on. You do 3 rounds, just like I described. At the end of each round, you add another cookie to the stalls. You replace any training tokens. There should be 1 of each type available each round. Let's see, what else do you do? Check the rules. I think you replenish the toy cards each round also. Swipe the ones that weren't used and put 6 new ones out. Then, at the end of the 3rd round, you have a scoring to see who's the best person at making toys for nice kids. So let's say we're working on toys. As we finish toys, we just sort of put them under our scorecard. I mean our player board, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the 3rd round, let's say it looks like this. Let's say this player, blue, has built 3 toys in the first 3 rounds. And pink player has only built 1. It'll usually be more than that. What you do is you see who has built the most, and he just gets 2 points for each. So if he built 3 toys, he gets 6 points. You score those right away. He's second, so he built 1 toy. He gets only 1 point for each, so he gets 1 point. You score those right away. So at the end of the 3rd, 6th, and 9 rounds, you score the toy cards. So there's a little advantage there to scoring more lower point cards. Like in any game, there's a big variety in how many points some cards are worth. From like 5, there's one that's like 30 or 40. It takes like a whole bunch of materials and a whole bunch of tools. Do you want to do the more big cards, or more small cards, or fewer big cards? It's hard to say, except for the fact that more small cards will help you get the toy bonus at the end of the third, 6, or 9 round. And at the end of the third round, you take the ones that you scored and you put them in Santa's sleigh to send off to nice little kids. And so each of these scoring isn't cumulative over the whole game. It's just how many toys you built the previous 3 rounds. And let's see, that's about it. There's a rule that I think in the 9th round, there's a little extra rule to make it a little easier to get these tools. The one thing that some people find a little frustrating, I don't mind it, is that it's kind of hard to get the tools you need, especially late in the game. So they make it easier the 9th round. You could read the rules on how that's done. There's just more spaces open up. Sometimes when we play in our family, we make a lot of games a little easier. Some people don't like that. House ruling, they say, that's wimpy. You like the tension of not being able to get everything you want to get. That what makes you have to think and use strategy. Yeah, I do agree, but so what? Sometimes we make things a little easier. And the main way we do it in this game is in this tool area. Sometimes we'll open up an extra spot the whole game, or we'll take that 9th round rule and apply it to the last 3 rounds. And I don't mean any disrespect to the designers and developers by house ruling, because I think the game does work just fine playing exactly as the rules say. But tools are kind of hard. I think that's the only thing we tend to change. So that's Santa's Workshop, 1st edition. We just love this game. We've played it a bunch every Christmas for maybe 4 years since we got it when it was pretty new. And but I'm really looking forward to playing this one also. I'm definitely keeping the old one because they're just different enough that they have a different feel. And for nostalgic purposes, I just like this. And I'm in the minority in that I like kind of old rustic looking art as opposed to extra pretty, shiny, colorful art. Most people will like this art better, but I like the old art better. It's just my old person opinion. So yeah, like I said, I haven't played this one yet. I'm not sure I'll like it better. I think I'm going to like it slightly better, but we'll see. So let's talk about 2nd edition and the rules, and in particular, the rule changes. Well, almost everything's tweaked a little. The only thing I can think of that's exactly the same is this area where you get the toy cards. Why did I put those upside down? So you start the game. Well, the toy cards look very different. All the art is very different. See, this one's 14 points because it requires 6 material and 3 tools. This is only 4 points. It's about as low as they go. It only requires 2 material and 1 tool. So you have all these cards. You start with 6 wooden blocks, walking spring. In both versions, the toys are really, they're cute. They're fun to talk about and see what you're building. Oh, I just built a toy plane. All right. So you could go here and get 3 new cards, or you can go here, swipe the deck, and get 2 new cards. So that's exactly the same. Now the way you get materials is a little different, but pretty close. Here's the metal, the wood, and the material. You see there's 2 spaces on each. For example, here you pay 1 coal to get 2 metal, or 2 coal to get 3. That's one big change. In the 1st edition, this was 3 for 3, so it makes it a little easier here. And other than that, getting materials is the same. There's only the 2 spaces open up each round. If you play with only 2 players, only 1 person can go to each. That's in either edition. In the 1st edition, they don't have little covers to block those spots. You just have to remember that. And but here, this is something that's different about training tokens. Back in the 1st edition, you sent a worker here to get training tokens. Here, you don't have to use an extra worker. But let's say you send a worker to get metal. Well, once you have gone to either of these spaces, you can then pay 1 more coal to get this metal training token. And there's 1 available of each type each round. So with more than 2 players, someone could go to both of these spots, but whichever one goes second can't get a training token. So you put the training token on your little elf guy. either there or there. There's 2 places he can go. And now this guy is trained. Now training here, you only get 1 extra medal. So this would be 1 coal gets you 3, 2 coal gets you 4. In the first edition, training got you 2 extra. However, in this case, it's a little easier to get the training tokens, and you could just get 2. Well, in the first game, you could get 2 for each elf. You could get 2 for this elf and have him doubly trained in metal, so he gets 2 extra. A different thing about the training tokens in this game is as soon as you get it, instead of doing that, you could just put it there, and it just gives you 2 extra points at the end of the game instead of training the guy. Now, towards the end of the game, that's probably a good move, but early on, you're going to go back and use him to get more material a lot. So I think early in the game, it's definitely better to use them as a training token. Later in the game, maybe the 2 points. And at the end of the game, let's say there's 2 here, regardless of whether they got you 2 individual points or they're both training tokens or 1 at each, you also get 2 points if you did both of those. And I'll explain this board and the bonuses that work differently in this game pretty soon. So that's how you get your cards, and then you need to get your materials to make the toys, and then you need to get your training to the tools. And the tools work very differently here. The tools, in a way, are easier. The first person that goes here gets one tool. The second player automatically gets 1, and if he wants, he can take a second one, but see this handshake, he needs the first guy to help him get the tool. And this tells you that the first guy, when he's a helper, gets 3 points. Third person, you can have as many people go here as you want. I think this really does a lot to solve the it's so hard to get tools problem. It's not really a problem, it's a tension, is that this big spot isn't limited to 1 person. So you go here, you automatically get 1. If you want a second one, the first player helps you and he gets 3 points for it. If you want a third one, the second player helps you and gets 2 points for helping you. And it's probably worth it just about every time because tools are still hard to get. And if one of the previous elves and that's helping was yourself from the same player, you don't get the extra points for helping yourself. So first place gets 1 tool, second place gets up to 2, and then as many as want to go here can get up to 3. So you need the tools and the materials to build your toys. And along with the materials, you can get trained for your elves to be more efficient at building materials. And you go up here to get coal. Is the first person to go here gets 1 extra point, but then as many people can go here as you want every round. And interestingly, one thing that's easier in this game, whenever you go there, you automatically just fill your cart. So if this player, the second player, who starts with 2 coal, uses his first elf just to go here, he'll get 4 coal to fill his cart. Same amount as you would have got at the beginning of the game in the first edition. But if you had already used up a couple, he just used 1 to, you don't use a coal to get coal. If you'd already used your coal, you could get 6. Now, the way these sort of some extra materials for extra bonuses work in this game, it's a little more elaborate than in the first edition. Remember in the first edition, you could get a couple extra materials for 4 points, a couple extra metal to get 6 instead of 4 coal every time you go, and a couple extra wood to increase your coal capacity from 6 to 9 to 12. You could get up to 2 of any type of material throughout the game that you don't need for your toys and use them over here. Well, in this game, in the second edition, you can get up to 6 that you don't need. So let's look at the wood first. If you get 1 extra wood, just sort of set it by this, and once you get 2, this moves away. Once you get 2 wood, I think you put this one on the bottom, and now you just move it away, and now your capacity is 9 coal. And you go up to the coal place, 1 elf, you get 9 coal. If you put 4 more wood here, move that away, and now you go to the coal place once, you get 12 coal. You do that later in the game, that might be the last time you ever need to go to get coal. So the bonuses are bigger, but it costs more. You could use up to 6. My guess, just seeing the game, not having played it yet, is that it's really worth using 2 wood to get the first one. Because, I mean, you need your materials to finish your toys. So to use them all over here, is that really worth it? That's a fun thing to ponder. I don't know. Is it worth getting 4 more for the extra 3 spots? Well, if you do both of those, if you use all 6, you also get 4 bonus points at the end of the game. So 6 wood that you could use for toys gives you a lot more coal capacity and 4 bonus points at the end of the game. Let's look at what we do with extra metal or extra cloth. If you get 2 extra metal, the first one you just sort of set here to remember. The second one you remove this, and now every time you go to get coal, you get a point. You get 4 more metal. Every time you go to get coal, you now get 2 points, and you'll get 4 points at the end of the game. What does extra cloth do? Well, if you get 2 extra cloth, you remove this, every time you go buy a reindeer card, I guess we should have talked about that first, I'll explain that next, you can do it for 1 less coal. If you get 4 more cloth, so you spent 6 cloth, now every time you buy a reindeer card, it costs 2 less coal, and you get 4 points at the end of the game. So let's talk about reindeer cards. So we talked about most things that are similar between the 2 versions, how you get your toys, how you get the materials and the tools to build your toys, how you get the training tokens to be more efficient at getting material. There's no training token that makes you more efficient at getting tools like there was in the first game, but they have this neat helper thing along in the tools. The coal, you just fill up your basket every time. They don't have the reindeer stalls as they did before, but they have these 2 different areas that sort of replace those. This is you go here, 3 people can go here per round, and you just pay coal, how many ever it says at the top, to get a reindeer. And that's worth, there's 2 reasons that's good. One, they give you something. This one gives you 2 material. This one gives you 1 tool. This one gives you 3 points right away. And then by set collection, the more reindeer you have at the end of the game, the more points you get. There's 9 unique reindeer. The 8, Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. And then for some reason, the 9th one isn't Rudolph. I don't know why. Maybe it was copyrighted, but the 9th one is, I can't remember. Look in the rules. It's another one another name that isn't one of those 8. And if you do this 9 times, you'll get 25 points. It's probably not, I don't know. That is a lot of points, but that's a lot of workers that could have been dedicated to building toys. It's definitely worth getting at least a few. Well, plus they also give you some sort of bonus right away. And interestingly, this also costs coal. In the first edition, getting materials was the only thing that cost coal. But now there's an additional place that costs coal. We have to use your coal. I guess you're keeping the reindeers warm, keeping their fire going over in the reindeer area. So now this other area, this is a way to get little extra bonuses now and then, kind of analogous. Actually, thematically, this reminds me more of the reindeer stalls in the first edition than the reindeer cards do. But just by the looks and the name reindeer, the reindeer remind me more of them. So these 2 kind of replace the reindeer stalls in the first game. So each round of the 9 rounds, 2 players can go here, except in a 2-player game, this one is blocked off. And the difference is whoever goes there gets a point. Whoever goes there takes the first player marker, and then either of them does some decorating, which gets them bonuses. I'll explain that in a second. Interestingly, if you go there, it says move the first player marker. So of course you'll take it if you don't have it, but if you have the first player marker and really want to go there, you have to give it away. So you'll probably just give it to the person to your right. In a 2-player game, this one's blocked off, so you can only go to this one. And what are these decorations? Well, the places on the tree where you hang decorations look like one of the 3 materials. And each player has 5 different decorations. The same 5. Metal, cloth, wood, a toy card, and a point. No, 3 points. So what you do is you decide which one you want to use. I'm going to use this one. I want a piece of wood. And where do you want to put it on the tree? Well, I want to put it right there, covering wood. So I get 1 wood because I used the wood decoration and 1 wood because I covered wood. And that's assuming I put my worker there. So I also get to take the first player marker. And if the other person puts his worker there, he gets 1 point. And let's say he wants to use this one. He wants to put it there. Well, he gets a piece of a medal for covering the medal, and he gets a toy card for using the toy card decoration. And he could go take any one of these 6 or the one off the pile. So that's the decorations. And you do that a few times during the game. Each time you go, it gives you one of these 2 benefits, plus a double benefit on here. 1 material for what's printed on the tree, and 1 either material card or 3 points for what's on the side of your decoration. And you actually turn them over so your color shows, because that is an important thing to count, because at the end of every 3 rounds, like in the first game, we have a little competition to see how nice people are. It's how many toys did you make for kids, and how well did you decorate the tree. So you count your finished toy cards, just like in the first game, but you add that to the total decorations of your color on the tree. And that's how you decide who gets the bonus. Oh, I have to tell you how to actually score that bonus. I'll do that in a second. And then the toy cards go in Santa's sleigh. Isn't that cool? 3D Santa's sleigh. So each of the 3 bonus rounds, the toy cards are only for the last 3 rounds, but the decorations you did are cumulative throughout the entire game. And the way this scores is 8, 4, 2, 1. So if there's 5 players, they get 8, 4, 2, 1, 0. I have to check in the rules if you use all the same numbers, like if there's 2 players, is it 8 and 4, or does only the first player get something? I'm sure that's really easy, but I didn't check the rules for that, so check that. One thing that's certain in both cases, in both the first and second edition, is that ties for the bonus scoring are extra nice. So let's say you have a 3-player game, and in the first edition, you count just the toy cards you've built. And let's say the 3 players have built, let's say 4, 4, and 3 cards. Well, the first 2, I guess I'll just be looking at the first edition. Like you have your cards shoved under here. The first 2 that both scored 4 points, well, instead of like one of them gets the score for first and the second, you take those 2 scores and average them or something, you just both score as though you're first place. So if 2 players finished 4 cards in the previous 3 rounds, when you do the Santa scoring, they both get 8 points, 2 points per card. And let's say the next player, let's say it's a 3-player game, finished 3 cards. So you have 4, then 3. Well, technically that other player, he came in 3rd place because there are 2 people ahead of him. Like if it was the Olympics, the first 2 people would both get gold medals. He wouldn't get silver, he'd get bronze because he came in 3rd. 2 people were ahead of him. However, he would still score as if he was in 2nd. So he would get, if he finished 3 toys, he would get 3 points, 1 for each. So another way to phrase it is that when the toy card scoring is done every 3 rounds, whatever the highest number of toys that anybody has made, whatever that number is, each person that has that number gets 2 points per toy card. And then whatever is the second highest number, regardless of how many people scored that number, each of them get 1 point per toy card. Similar in the second edition, but you have those numbers, 8, 4, 2, 1. So let's say you have a 3-player game and the first 2 players tie, and let's say they both have 4 cards. The exact number here doesn't matter. You don't like double the number of cards. There's just points printed there. And the 3rd player has 3. Or let's say you do completed toy cards plus decorations. And let's say for the 3 players, it's 4 and 4 and 3. Well, the 2 people who had 4 of them each get 8 points. The next person, even though he came in 3rd, he doesn't get 2 points. He gets 4 points. So I like that. It's extra generous. It's not logical if you like to follow sports and how they give out medals and assign places, but this is Christmas. It's better to be fun. So that's how the scoring is done. So let's just step back and take one overview. I know that was really quick, comparing the 2 editions. Oh, I just love this one, and this one is just similar enough, but different enough. I'm definitely keeping both. They're just both so fun. I won't know until we play with my family a few times this Christmas season which one we wind up liking better. I do like it that tools are a little less tight in this game. All the other differences, it's hard to tell if I like them better or worse. They're mostly just different. I think it's a little fun just adding the decorations, doing a little more. We'll see. I'll put some notes in the video. I'm going to put this on Board Game Geek and YouTube, and I'll put the notes in one or both of those places, my thoughts after playing this one. Okay, let's see. So they pretty much have almost all the same things. One big difference is you don't need an extra worker to get trained. You just do it when you get resources. And then instead of the reindeer stables, they add reindeer cards and decorations. Those are kind of the main differences. And you have this idea of helping. That's kind of fun. But they, again, I haven't played this one yet, but I watched a long video of a couple guys playing it. And it has a very similar feel. The elf cards are larger. There's only 3 spaces on the elf cards. Oh, yeah, it's one. It's actually not different. In the first edition, there's 4 spaces. And 2 or 3 player game, you use all 4. 4 or 5 player game, you only use 3. It's the same here, but there's one difference though. In a 4 or 5 player game, you use all 3. You use 3. In a 2 or 3 player game, you get a 4th elf. But instead of an extra one of your color that has a space, you get one of these 3 little special training guides. This is like a snowman. This is like a little fairy. I forget what this guy is. You just pick one. So let's say the green person, he would have his 4th little worker. The red person picks this one, would have this 4th little worker. Well, each round, they can just do worker placement in 4 places. But you need to realize that this little helper guy, this little extra guy, he can't be trained. So he has no potential to be better at getting material than the 3 of the player color, the 3 elves of the player color. That's the only difference. Everywhere else on the board, he's exactly the same as the 3 main elves. And so one thing I would try to do, well, you might wind up wanting to use all these guys to get material where they're trained, but if you're not so limited, I would try to use one of the ones of my player color if I go to either of those places as opposed to my little extra helper elf, because when someone goes to those places, they need to know which player went there. And of course you'll remember because you know who your helper is, but it's just easier to see that real quick if you put one of your player colors there. But let's say it's the first round, the first turn of a given round, and you want to go there, well, you would want to use this guy because you want to save these ones in case you want to get material, because especially if they've all been trained to some extent. So that's not a big deal. But whatever. So you just have to keep track of who went to these places if they didn't use one of their player color elves. All right. Oh, I did forget. There's one extra thing in the first edition. There's an extra deck of cards that you can have that you shuffle and just deal one card at the beginning of each round that throws in some little twist in that round. They're not a big deal. They could be things slightly good, slightly bad, like, oh, no one can get wood this round, or they can be something that gives you some extra points if you do something. The second edition, I didn't see any such bonus or extra thing. However, I don't want to forget this. There is one huge difference with the second edition. I am going to have to just make a big mess now and turn over the whole board. Okay. And spill everything because it is 2-sided. Voila, red and green, Christmas colors. And on the back side, the green board, why can I not be more coordinated, is the easier edition. I think they call this the family edition, and the red one we just saw, the advanced edition, which I just went through first because it's so similar to the first edition, and it's not that hard. Experienced strategy gamers would probably almost always want to play the advanced edition, but this simpler edition is actually really fun. It simplifies things a lot that you could play with kids. I mean, you could play this with bigger kids, but I'm thinking my 6-year-old grandson, who's exceptionally adept at getting games, maybe with a little help, might be able to play this. It's a lot simpler, and I'll just go over that really quick. It's not so simple that it would be boring for a bunch of adults that are strategy gamers. I mean, mainly this would be for kids, or like I might play with some of my family members that just never play games and don't like thinking of games where there's 12 choices at a time. But I might just play this myself with other gamer friends or relatives just to try it. It's just a little more relaxing because it's easier. So let me just go over the differences between this, and again, I forget what the rules say. It's either the family game or the introductory game and the more advanced game. So let's look at the card area. The card area is very similar in that you go here, you get 3. You go here, you get 2. It doesn't say anything about swiping them, or at least that's not on the board. You might check the rules about that. But this space, it's extra big, so any amount of people can go here. This is a lot more forgiving game as far as how many spaces there are. In the advanced game and in the first edition, one person can go to the 3 spot and one to the 2 spot each round. Here you can have as many as you want, go to the 2 spot. So getting cards is very similar. Getting materials is pretty different. One huge difference in this game is that there's no coal. There's no place to go get coal. You don't use coal. You very simply, you go here, you get 2 metal. Second player, and you have to go in order, gets 3, then 4, then 5. So you can get a lot of resources, especially if you wait and let other people go first. Same with wood, same with cloth or fabric. So it's very simple to get a lot of material. Same with the tools, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to get the material and the tools that you need to build your cards, the main few points of the game, a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward, a lot less tight, very simple to understand. So you get material, you get tools, you build your toy cards. Then, let's see, what else do we have? Well, there's no coal place. The reindeer cards work very similar. However, instead of each reindeer card having a bonus, something you get, every reindeer card is the same. Well, they all have different names, but any given one, they just have a name. Like, oh, this is Blitzen. He's number 8. So you just get a reindeer card and set collection at the end of the game for how many you have. And the first person to go here gets 2 material. He can choose 2 of the same or any 2 different ones. The second person gets 1, the third person gets 1. So 3 people can go here in a given round, just like in the advanced version. But what they get is just based on this, it's not printed on the reindeer cards. This deck of reindeer cards has different ones for the advanced game and intro game. And then there's the set collection. Oh, one important point about the set collection. This is the points you get for, I flipped the board. I think it's a little more points on this version than the advanced version, but it's basically the same idea for unique reindeer. So if you have 2 of Blitzen, that doesn't count. So you count unique reindeer, and whatever your largest set is, this is how many points you get. So let's say you have 7 reindeer, but only 5 are unique. 2 of them are doubles. Well, you would get 12 points for the 5 unique ones, but each extra one that's a duplicate, you still get 2 points for that. So it's not worthless. It's just you're not adding as much. Okay, so reindeer cards are simpler. Toy cards are basically the same. Materials and tools are simpler. A couple things that they don't have here. Notice there's no training tokens. You can't get better at getting materials because it's so easy. Let's look at these player boards. Is there a different side for the base? Yes, the basic game is just this. You don't have all these bonus things because these are all related to coals. These 2 are related to getting coal. That's related to using coal. So you just don't have all that. You don't have these player mat bonuses, and you don't have training tokens. Those are the 2 things completely taken out of the introductory game. You just have your player board with your 3 elves. And again, with 2 or 3 players, use one of these little helper dudes to have a 4th elf. So what are let's see. Okay, this is the decorations area. It's similar, but what you do at the beginning of the game is, what do you do? I just read this. I think you put out all of your decorations here and face down, and when you put a worker there, you go ahead and take one, and you get that, whatever the bonus is, and you just put it on your board. Maybe I think you put it on. Oh, yes, you get 2 things. So let's say you're the red player. I used a green guy. let's say you're the red player and you didn't just completely turn your mat over. Take one of your elves, go here, take one of your tokens, but they're all upside down, so you don't know which one it's going to be. Oh, I'm going to get a wood, but the second thing you get, you can choose. You can either get a wood, a material, a wood, a cloth, a metal, a tool. I don't know if that means one of each. I think that just means you can choose one, or 3 points. So the one I picked means I have to get wood, but in the advanced edition, you get to pick which one you pick and where you place it, but you at least get to pick where it places it. So if you put it here, you get a wood and a metal. And then the scoring each 3 rounds is the same. Same 8, 4, 2, 1, and you count the toys you've built, and you count the decorations that you've put on your tree on your player mat. The decorations accumulate the whole game. The card count starts over after each 3 rounds. So the difference being in this intro game, you just take a decoration of your color and put it here. In the advanced game, you just have your decorations sitting around and you put them out on the tree. Very similar idea, actually. So we have the tree. That's kind of similar. Getting materials and tools is easier. Reindeer cards are a little simplified. Everything's just basically simplified. There's just no coal, so you don't have to pay for the materials or the reindeer cards. You just go there and just get a reindeer card. And since there's no coal, you don't have any of these bonus things on your player mat, just the tree. One other place here is that big pile. I think they call that the donation center. Whenever you get materials or tools that you can't use, you just put them in a big pile there, and then anybody can use one of their workers on one of their turns. They just go there, and this big spot means as many people, you could go there as often as you want, and whenever you go there, you just get everything. It's sort of like the money in jail for people that play Monopoly by the wrong rules. You just go there and grab it. So stuff will build up, because if these are both filled up, and you get here and get 4 metal, but the toy cards you're collecting only have room for 2, you have to put the other 2 over here. And then after that happens just a couple times, that's going to be really attractive to go to. It's going to have a mix of the 3 different types of materials and tools. So I'm going to play this version too, for sure, even if I don't have any kids over, just to see how the whole thing feels, especially that one. Like, how often will people want to go to that? That's like a really good idea, and it's simple to understand. So let's see, that's about it. So again, scoring is mainly finishing the toys, I keep saying that, finishing the toy cards during the game. Let's see, there's really not a whole lot of end game scoring. So there's finishing the toy cards at the end of the game. There's the Santa scoring at oh wow, this only has 6 rounds. So we're going to do that twice here, 3 times in the advanced version. And also in the first edition, you build your toys, and then there's Santa scoring 3 times. And you can get some points in the middle of the game here for getting those cookies. You can get points for getting a couple extra cloth. That's about it. At the end of the game, you get a point for each. In the first edition, I think it's each material. Maybe material and tool, maybe just material sitting on a card that hasn't been completed. And also I think it's 1 point for each 2 coal. A lot of these little details, you're gonna have to check the rules, but hopefully this gives you a really good idea of the overall feel. In this advanced game, you get points during the game for the scoring, advanced or introductory, and completing toys. In the advanced game, you also get points at the end of the game, based a lot of stuff on your player mat. So if you have both circles filled for any one of your 3 main elves, not your little bonus dude, your extra dude, you get 2 points for having them both filled. And then if any of those you chose to do the 2-point side instead of the training side, you get 2 points for that individual one. Over here, if you've done both of these, you get 4 points, both of those 4 points, both of these 4 points. In any case, if you only did one, it's not 2 points, it's just 0. So it's incentive to use the 6 materials to do both. So a lot of scoring here. And in this game, you get 1 extra point at the end for each. I know this one because I just read it. It's each material, but not tool. No, I'm sorry, material or tool, but not coal. Here, I think it's material, a point for each two coal, and I can't remember if you get a point for a tool or not. And then on the, in fact, in this one, it just says it right here. So you get a point for each material or tool on unfinished toys. All the mat upgrades here. And then in both cases, you get points at the end of the game for your reindeer cards. So that's a quick overview of the basically 3 Santa's Workshop games. The first edition on this big giant board with the old rustic homey look. The second edition on the 2 sides that are very similar, very pretty, colorful, sort of newer looking art. One thing I noticed is the toy cards in this new edition. There's no iPhones. Teddy bear, telescope, tea set. It's the type of toys you see in old movies from like the 1940s that has this really fun old feel. In fact, when I said new, the art in this whole edition is like it was made way back like mid-early 20th century. It's very bright and colorful, which makes me think new at first, but it has this old theme. See the little robot toy, the rocking horse, a doll, the whole theme, the whole feel is from that era. This doesn't have a particular era feel, but it's like you're in this cabin lit by a fireplace made out of wood. Just very different, very complimentary. I can't really say one's better than the other. I'm definitely keeping both of these. I really can't see any reason once you have both that you wouldn't keep them both. The first edition is kind of hard to find. When it went out of print before I knew a second edition came out, I spent a lot to get a couple extra copies just because my kids love them so much. And now that they're moved out, I figured they'd want to take one with them. I might not have done that had I known the second edition was coming out. I would have still been happy to want my first edition. So, but the second edition isn't too hard to find. It just came out. It doesn't strike me as the type of game that has any place for like upgrades. It just, expansions. It just doesn't need it. It's just such a complete game. So I don't think, maybe they could think of some little idea, but I don't think they need to. Hopefully this is available for like ever. It's just such a cool Christmas game. Shouldn't be hard getting it. They're similar enough that I can't see anyone liking one a lot more. The developers and designers, I read a lot of stuff online on Board Game Geek about their process. They put a lot of work into the revised rules in this, especially the advanced game. I'm making a huge mess here. So my assumption is most people would think the new one is better, just because a lot of people, smart game designers, really put a lot of work into it based on feedback they got from the first one. But none of that was negative. There was just a few tips. People are like, yeah, the tools are a little stressful. This thing or that isn't my favorite. A lot of people, one thing I didn't point out, there's no plastic in the new game. A lot of people said, we never use the plastic anyways. And so for various reasons, they took that out. So there's a few differences here and there. If you stumble across the first edition, I definitely say it's worth getting, but I wouldn't try really hard to hunt it down if it's going for a lot on the secondhand market, because again, even if you're one of the people that likes the first one better, I don't think it would be by very much. I'm sure once I play this a couple times and have an opinion, I'll tell you which one I like more, and I bet I'll say, but it's close. So that's Santa's Workshop. Excited to play it. I'm going to play the old one too, but I'll definitely play this one, both versions, to see how we like them. So Merry Christmas 2023. Hope this is somewhat helpful to some people, either deciding to get the game or just wanting a quick overview of how to play it. I guess this has lasted almost an hour. That's not that quick, but I did explain all 3 versions together. So have fun gaming this Christmas season. Bye-bye.